The fourth characteristic is that love eagerly honors others. Love eagerly honors others. The CSB says in verse 10, love one another deeply as brothers and sisters. Take the lead in honoring one another. Love one another deeply as brothers and sisters. Take the lead in honoring one another. The ESV says, love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. The NLT says, love each other with genuine affection and take delight in honoring each other. Take delight in showing honor or honoring other people. I'm convinced that most relational problems, especially within the church, this applies in life, but I think especially within the church, I am convinced that most relational problems are rooted in one or both parties not feeling valued. Why does it break down? Why does it turn ugly? It's because one or both parties feel dishonored. You don't feel valued. You don't feel appreciated. You feel disrespected. And so Paul says, listen, in the church, honor each other, value each other, appreciate each other. The ESV says, outdo one another in showing honor. He says, I know you're going to compete. So if you're going to compete in showing honor. Why don't we honor each other? Because naturally we're competitive. And if I honor you, I'm putting you above me. And I don't like that. I want to be above you. I want to be above you. And see, competition, it ruins love. Competition is what causes relationships to fracture. Competition, there's a place for competition in sports. There's something good and right about that. But I'm not talking about competition on a football field or a basketball court. I'm talking about competition in our relationships. That there really is no place for competition among one another. That's not one of the commands. Compete with one another. It's not what it is. And we don't compete in every area of life, but you're going to compete in some areas. Naturally, your heart will compete in some areas. Who has the best kids? Don't you think about that? How do my kids compare to others? Who has a better job? Who has a better marriage? Who knows cooler people? Who has a better house? Who has more honor in the church? The list just goes on and on and on and on and on. And so we compare and so we compete. And it makes it so difficult for us to honor one another. And so I want to give you just a few ways that we can honor each other. How do we take the lead in honoring one another? Okay, number one, listen well. So many people just want to talk. Very few people want to listen. Listen well. I have found that people can be surrounded by people day after day, but feel totally alone because they don't connect with anyone. They don't actually connect with another human being. One counselor said this: being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are almost indistinguishable. Being heard is so close to being loved that it's almost indistinguishable. The average person can't even tell the difference. Being heard and being loved. And see, you honor that. When you listen to people, this is what you're saying to them. Number one, you're worth listening to. You're honoring them by saying, you're worth listening to. And you're honoring them by saying, I might actually gain something from listening to what you have to say. And so there's a humility that is required there. And as a parent, if you have kids, I would encourage you to practice this with your kids, with your spouse, and with other people. Just listen. Just say, you know what, I don't need to say anything. I'm just going to listen and ask questions. And I'm telling you, people will feel so loved by you. People will feel so loved if you just shut up and be interested in them. And so it's just one way to honor people. Now, if both people are trying that trick on each other, it's just dead silence for a while. It's going to be a little weird. So there's a time to speak, obviously, and share what's going on. But just having a posture, I want to listen. I want to listen to people. Another little tip on how to honor people is compliment people. Compliment people. I did not say I did not say flatter people. Flattery is a trap. It's a sin. We ought not flatter. But see, one of the marks of a competitive spirit is that competitive people cannot compliment their peers. See, you can compliment, someone who's way above you. Just pick whoever that person is in your mind. Michael Jordan is a great basketball player. He's awesome. He's the best ever. That's no threat to me to say Michael Jordan is a great basketball player. But see, one of the marks of a competitive spirit is that the people you view as being on your same level, one of the marks is you can't say good things about them. They're your competitors. And see, having the mentality that I want to compliment people, you're training your eyes to look for what is good in other people and then tell them, I appreciate that about you. We're going to die someday. We're going to die, and when we get to the end of our lives, we don't want to have all these thoughts and feelings towards people that we've never communicated. And so part of honoring people is looking and finding what is honorable in them and telling them. And you ought not think, well, if I compliment them, they're going to get a big head. So I'm going to keep them humble by never saying anything nice to them. Bad strategy. Does anyone here feel like they are just too encouraged in life? I just have so much encouragement in my life. I can't even stand it anymore. Nobody thinks that. So compliment people. It's one way to honor them. Another way is to compliment people behind their back. Compliment people behind their back. One of the greatest ways, the clearest ways to dishonor people is that when they're around, brother, it's great to see you. They step out of the room, that guy's an idiot. And all of us are guilty of this at times. All of us have done that. But to fight against that is to say, I'm going to compliment people behind their back. When they're not here, I'm going to speak well of them. And not in a weird way. It takes wisdom, it takes understanding, it takes a little practice to figure that out. But see, we want to have the types of relationships with each other where we're not wondering what people are saying when we're not in the room. We don't want those types of relationships. We want the types of relationships where we can look at one another and we just say, hey, brother, I see this in your life. That's a problem. Let's talk about it. So I know if you have a problem with me and I have a problem with you, we just talk to each other. And when I'm not around, you're not bashing me. And when you're not around, I'm not bashing you. Rather, I'm trying to uphold your honor when you're not in the room. That's what friendship looks like. And see, the best relationships that you have are people that you trust when you're not in the room.